Hi everyone, this is Karen.
Hey everybody, I am Shane.
Today we're looking at part 1 of kitchen tips.
And the science behind them.
And the vocabulary words are laboratory.
Laboratory.
The scientists are busy doing experiments in the laboratory.
Moist.
Moist.
The chocolate cake that you made not only tastes good, but is really moist. Thank you.
You're welcome. Barrier.
Barrier.
A face mask creates a barrier between a person's mouth and nose and the environment.
Reaction.
Reaction.
Burning wood is an example of a chemical reaction.
Bitterness.
Bitterness.
Darlene added some sugar to reduce the bitterness of the fresh juice. So we're talking about some kitchen tips today.
Kitchen tips. So like for cooking, really, right?
That's true. Well, not just for cooking or anything
Preparing food.
That's right. Preparing food,
Okay.
right?
What's the first good tip that you like?
Well, I don't really drink coffee,
Yeah.
but I heard that, a lot of people don't like it because it's bitter. But now a lot of people add sugar to the coffee. But did you know that if you add some salt to the coffee, it would actually make it taste a little smoother, like not as bitter?
Exactly.
Have you tried? Because I
In Taiwan, in fact, it's pretty common that you will see sea salt coffee. And I always thought this coffee always tastes smoother, and now I understand why.
Okay.
Interesting. Also, the one I like is because I like to hard boil eggs.
That's right.
Quite a bit. And always has the problem of when I peel off the shell sticks to the egg.
And it's very hard to peel, right?
Right. So after you boil the egg, put it into ice water, like a bath of ice water for like 5 minutes.
Oh, really?
And then the shell will just come right off.
That would save a lot of time and effort.
And frustration. I get so frustrated.
You are absolutely right. So I think these are some great kitchen tips that you guys can try too.
And there's even more
That's
if you
right.
keep reading.
Okay, enjoy.
Kitchen tips and the science behind them. Science isn't just for the laboratory. Using science in the kitchen can help speed up the cooking process, increase flavor, and improve the quality of your dishes. Let's check out some science-based kitchen tips.
Hello everyone. Today's lesson is called Kitchen Tips and the Science Behind Them. Part 1. Hi again. I am Jeff.
And I am Mike. So yes, we're talking about tips or good bits of advice, good suggestions you can use in the kitchen, and things that we know about because of the world of science. And actually, cooking and science, they have a lot in common. There's a lot of chemistry and physics going on in the kitchen, and if we can use a little bit of science to make our kitchens cleaner, to make our food taste better or last longer, well, hey, I'm all for it. So let's begin our article with the first sentence, which sort of shows us that, science isn't just for scientists. Well, actually, it says science isn't just for the laboratory. Yes, the laboratory is a place where scientists work. This is a noun. It's a place, often a room, maybe a building, but generally we would talk about a science laboratory or lab. We often shorten it down to LAB, lab. And basically where scientists will do their research, do their experiments. If you have a science lab at your school, it probably has lots of special glass bottles and chemicals and things like that for doing scientific research. For example, the scientists are busy doing experiments in the laboratory. So science isn't just for the laboratory. We can use science in lots of places.
No way. You don't have to be in a lab with a white coat on, with beakers and flasks, mixing chemicals carefully. No, you can use science elsewhere. You can use it in your daily life, even in your kitchen. Yes, using science in the kitchen can help speed up the cooking process, increase flavor, and improve the quality of your dishes. So let's check out some science-based kitchen tips. Wow, some helpful pieces of information on how you can use science to help you cook better, it sounds like. How about that? So let's get to it. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, I should say, we are going to check out some science-based kitchen tips. See you then.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。今天的课文标题是 Kitchen Tips and the Science Behind Them， 厨房里的科学。科学并非只能用在实验室里面，它可以运用在我们的日常生活当中。那这2天的课文是要介绍一些有科学根据的厨房诀窍，来帮助我们加快煮东西的速度，来增加风味，还有改善菜的品质。好，这边有一个单字是 laboratory。Laboratory 它是指实验室，常常简称为 lab，L-A-B lab。像我们可以用 lab coat 来表达实验衣、实验室的那个袍子。那么 Jeff 老师还有提到2个东西，一个是 beaker，B-E-A-K-E-R，beaker 是烧杯。那么 flask，F-L-A-S-K，flask 表示烧瓶、长颈瓶。好，那我们接着回到课文中。
Kitchen tips and the science behind them. Moister veggies. Cooked vegetables lose moisture as steam escapes. To keep them from drying out, coat freshly boiled vegetables with a bit of oil to create a barrier that water inside the vegetables cannot pass through. Faster onions. Next time you're in a hurry to get dinner ready, add a dash of baking soda to the pan of onions. Baking soda reduces acidity, speeding up the chemical reaction that takes place with the sugars inside the onion. The result is that the onions will soften and cook faster.
Okay, tip number 1 has to do with moister veggies. Okay. I can get on board with that. Now, first though, we've got to talk about this word moist. If something is moist, it's wet. Okay, we're not talking about like wet as in covered in water. Okay, we're talking about a food that is pleasantly not dry. Like the chocolate cake that you made not only tastes good, but is really moist. Like a good chocolate chip cookie to me, in the center should be moist. It shouldn't be dry like a cracker, let's say. It should have some moisture in it, some wetness to it. By the way, the word moist is the adjective. Moisture would be the noun.
Yes, definitely. Moister veggies, not dry veggies. No one wants dry veggies, especially after you've cooked them. Veggies, by the way, is just a short sort of cute way of saying vegetable. So how to keep your vegetables nice and moist. Cook vegetables lose moisture as steam escapes. So yes, when you're cooking your vegetables, they lose some of that moisture, some of that wetness inside them as steam escapes. The same kind of thing happens with chicken, right?
Yes.
Cooking chicken, you can get dry chicken if you overcook it. Having some moist chicken or moisture inside your chicken makes it softer and tender, more delicious, kind of like with your vegetables. So, as you cook the vegetables, that water, that moisture is leaving. You could end up with dry veggies. That's something you don't want.
Disgusting.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Anyways, moving on. Let's go ahead and
So how do we keep them moist?
With science, Mike. With science. To keep them from drying out.
Yes.
Coat freshly boiled vegetables with a bit of oil to create a barrier that water inside the vegetables cannot pass through.
I like it.
Remember, everyone, oil and water, they don't mix. Okay, that water is not going to escape because it can't get through that oil.
Well, kind of like how you put cream on your hands when they're dry, and it keeps them moist.
Cream or lotion.
Lotion, that's right. You can block things using that barrier of oil to keep the moisture inside the vegetables so it doesn't steam away, creating dry vegetables. Because a barrier is basically something like a wall or a fence or something like that. Something that stops things from passing through, or certainly passing through easily.
Like your shower curtain.
Like your shower curtain, or as we know from the last year, a face mask. And that's what we see in our example sentence. A face mask creates a barrier between the person's mouth and nose and the environment to stop germs from passing through. Don't put oil on your mouth to stop that. Just no, that works with vegetables, but doesn't work with germs. No, exactly. You're not going to do that. So there you go. Put a little bit of oil on your freshly boiled vegetables. Keep them nice and moist.
Okay, so we had moister veggies.
Yes.
And now this next one's easier. Right. Faster onions.
Oh. What?
Okay, so next we're going to have faster onions.
You mean onions that move quickly?
Onions that rush across the room and you can't catch them.
Look at that onion go.
Like someone let a chicken loose.
Was that an onion or a Ferrari?
It's like someone let a chicken loose or a Ferrari loose and you can't catch it.
Wow.
In your house, that's a fast onion. No, we're talking about how science can help us cook onions more quickly. So
cook them faster. Okay.
Next time you're in a hurry to get dinner ready, add a dash of baking soda to the pan of onions.
Because onions have a lot of water in them, and it does take some time to cook them.
And there's more on that. Baking soda reduces acidity, speeding up the chemical reaction that takes place with the sugars inside the onion.
That sounds like science.
It might have nothing to do with the moisture at all. Here we've got a chemical reaction. We got sugars in the onion, and there's baking soda, and a chemical reaction takes place. By the way, sometimes things change, and then you can change them back. When a chemical reaction takes place, something changes, but then you can't change it back. Like, let's say you cook an egg, okay? You break an egg, you put it in the pan, you fry it.
Okay.
You can't unfry that egg. A chemical reaction has taken place. Egg plus heat is delicious, but egg plus heat equals a chemical reaction, a change that you can't undo. Anyways, here when we're talking about chemistry and science, a reaction like a chemical reaction is something that happens when a chemical meets another chemical, and when a chemical meets another chemical, I should say, and they act on one another in such a way that you can't undo that thing, okay? Like burning wood is an example of a chemical reaction. Can you unburn wood? No. Once you've burned that piece of wood, it stays burned.
Oh, or like when you mix chemicals, an explosion happens or something.
You can't put a lid on that explosion and bring all that energy back.
Okay,
to where
so
it began.
these chemicals will react together. The baking soda with the sugars in the onion. There's that reaction. You can't change it back, but that's okay because now you have delicious cooked onions and you will save a bunch of time. As it says, the result is that the onions will soften and cook faster. Yeah, anyone who's cooked onions, if you're cooking onions with garlic, you know you got to put the onions in the pan, cook them for a few minutes before you put in the garlic and other things that cook a little bit faster. So there you go. You can save a bit of time, onions and baking soda. All right, let's take a break and then we'll be back with more fun science facts.
好，我们来看第一个诀窍是 moister veggies， 更多水分的蔬菜。那么 veggie 就是蔬菜，它就相当于 vegetable， 而 moist 它是形容词，形容湿润的、潮湿的。它的名词是在后面加 ure 变成 moisture，moisture 可以表达湿度或是水分。刚刚 Jeff 老师说啊，他认为好吃的巧克力片饼干呢，中间应该要有点湿润，而不是像苏打饼、薄脆饼那样太干了。好，老师说到 cracker， cracker 可以用来表达薄脆饼干。好，那么课文写到说，煮过的蔬菜会随着蒸汽而散掉，流失水分。那为了避免这个煮好的菜变干呢，你可以把刚煮好的蔬菜裹一点油，来产生一道屏障，让蔬菜里面的水分无法穿透过去。那这边有一个单字是 barrier 它表示阻碍、阻隔或是屏障。 再来看一个重点是 keep 受词 from 加上名词或动名词，可以表达阻止某人怎么样，防止某事物怎么样。例如 warming up before exercising can keep you from injuring yourself. 运动之前先暖身，可以防止你受到运动伤害。好，另外我们也可以用 prevent 或是 stop 加受词，加上 from 再加动名词，用这样的方式来表达。例如 Don't let anything stop you from chasing your dreams. 别让任何事情阻止你追求梦想。好，下一个诀窍是可以让洋葱更快熟哦。当你赶着准备晚餐时，可以在洋葱锅里面加一点小苏打。小苏打可以降低酸度，加快化学反应，让洋葱变软，而且煮得更快。好，单字 reaction 它就表示反应回应，我们用 chemical reaction 可以表达化学反应。Jeff 老师提到说，物质经过化学反应就没办法复原，它回不去了。那这时候老师用到 undo 这个字 ，undo undo 表示消除、复原或是有解开的意思。好，这边还有3个重点。第一个是 in a hurry， 它表示赶时间、匆忙。像你可以说 I'm in a hurry， 就是说我赶时间。第二个重点 get something ready 或是 get somebody ready 可以表达准备好某事物，让某人准备就绪。那么动词 get 在这边它是有使得或是造成的意思。例如 Have you got everything ready for your wedding？ 你们的婚礼一切都准备就绪了吗？第3个重点 dash 当名词可以表达少量、少许。A dash of 表示说少许一点点的什么，后面通常会接不可数名词。例如 She added a dash of salt to the soup。 她在汤里面加了些许的盐巴。计划课文中
Kitchen tips and the science behind them. Smoother coffee. If you usually add sugar to your coffee, try adding salt instead. Salt blocks the taste buds responsible for bitterness, and thus makes the coffee taste less bitter. Easier eggs. To better remove the shell from your hard-boiled eggs, put the freshly boiled eggs directly into an icy water bath for about 5 minutes. The cold water will contract the egg white, pulling it away from its shell.
Okay, so before we had moister veggies.
Yes.
Then we had faster onions, and now science is going to help us make smoother coffee. Okay, now there's nothing better than a nice cup of coffee in the morning.
Not even some moist vegetables?
In the morning to get you going? I don't want... Yeah, I wake up in the morning and I love smelling broccoli. No, I like waking up in the morning and smelling coffee.
Sure.
That gets me going, and then I add milk and sugar. But it says here, if you usually add sugar to your coffee, try adding salt instead.
Salt to your coffee instead of sugar?
I usually put my salt on my broccoli and my sugar in my coffee, but they're saying... salt in coffee. Go for it.
But sugar on broccoli don't. That's probably
they haven't mentioned that yet.
Okay.
Oil on the veggies to make them moist.
We got that. Yes. All right. But now we're switching things up. We're not putting sugar in the coffee. We're putting salt in the coffee. Let's find out why, because this sounds a little weird to me. It says salt blocks the taste buds responsible for bitterness. And thus makes the coffee taste less bitter. All right. Well, I guess that's if you don't like the bitterness of coffee. Some people kind of like that. But yeah, if you find your coffee too bitter, or I guess if you're watching your weight and want to, cut down on your sugar, add a little bit of salt instead of the sugar. Because yes, for some people, bitterness in vegetables, in food I should say, in general, is something they don't like. Coffee is bitter. Bitter melon, right? Kugwa, that's very bitter. Some people might even say tea without sugar is a little bit bitter. So it's not quite sour. It doesn't have that kind of,
It's kind of got a sharp taste
Yeah,
to it.
exactly. It's got that taste of, coffee or kugwa or certain things that you might say, I need to add some sugar to this. It's a little too bitter. So we often think of certain vegetables, certain types of drinks. Some people don't like beer because it tastes bitter as well.
And they're saying don't add sugar, add salt to block that bitterness there.
Block the bitterness in the coffee that, of course, is there naturally. That's if you don't like it. But some people like bitterness. But I'd say Darlene, in our example sentence, she also isn't a big fan of the bitter taste. We would say Darlene added some sugar to reduce the bitterness of the fresh juice. Okay, so she wants a slightly sweeter tasting juice. And in fact, many juices, they do add sugar because they are maybe bitter a little bit naturally. Now let's move on to eggs. We've made our coffee in the morning. Now we're going to make our eggs for breakfast. Easier eggs. So this is one way to make cooking eggs easier. It says to better remove the shell from your hard-boiled eggs, put the freshly boiled eggs directly into an icy water bath for about 5 minutes. Good call, chef. So if you're hard boiling your eggs, this is of course when you take the full egg in the shell, put it into some hot water, boil it for 8, 10, 12 minutes, something like that. It depends how hard you like it. Instead of taking it out and peeling that shell off like we would for a hard-boiled egg or tea eggs, right, that you buy at the 7-Eleven, instead of doing that right away, put this hot egg, careful because it will be hot coming out of the hot water, but put it into some icy cold water for about 5 minutes. That will make it easier to take the shell off.
The cold water in that ice bath there, the cold water will contract the egg white, pulling it away from its shell.
Things get smaller.
The egg white is kind of elastic, whereas the shell is not. Anyways, folks, that's it for today's lesson, but we'll have more kitchen tips for you next time. See you then. Bye-bye.
同学们想喝到更香醇的咖啡吗？如果你常常在咖啡里面加糖，也许可以试着改加盐巴，盐巴就会让咖啡尝起来比较不苦哦。那么 bitter 它是形容苦的，有苦味的，那它的名词是 bitterness， 就可以用来表达苦味。好，再来看到下一个诀窍呢，是把刚煮好的水煮蛋直接放进冰水，给它泡个5分钟左右。那么冷水会让蛋白收缩，它就会离开那个壳了嘛，那就可以轻易剥掉蛋壳。我们最后补充一下，文中用到 hard-boiled egg 是指全熟的水煮蛋。那么 contract 这个动词在这边则是表达使什么收缩、使什么缩小的意思。contract 在这边是当及物动词。好，以上是今天的讲解，同学们别走开，马上回来哦。
If you love birds, then Brazil is a great place for you. One of the most beautiful, unique birds in Brazil is the toucan. You can do all types of bird watching in Brazil, but observing toucans in the rainforest is really special. These tropical birds are very fascinating. Toucans are known for their big, colorful bills. Toucan bills can measure up to 20 centimeters long. The bills aren't heavy because they're made of a light material like our nails. Toucans also aren't good at flying. They prefer to jump from branch to branch instead. Toucans eat mainly fruit, but they won't say no to a meal of delicious insects. There are 40 types of toucans, but do you know which is the most common? It's the toco toucan. You can recognize a toco toucan by its orange-red bill. Toco toucans also have a white throat and black feathers on their bodies. Be sure to go looking for toucans when you visit Brazil. Here is more information. Colorful. There is a colorful painting on the wall. Beak. This bird has a blue beak. Narrow. This street is too narrow for this big truck. Mate. The peacock used its beautiful tail to attract its mate. Glide. Anne glided across the ice on her ice skates. Hop. The frog hopped into the pond. Constellation. Are you interested in constellations? Peel. You need to peel the banana before you eat it. I mostly read books in my free time. Insect. The butterfly is my favorite insect. The toucan sounds like a really cute bird. Next time when you visit the zoo, make sure you go take a look at the toucan. See you!
See you next time!